Jay, you just got to watch a practice. I know it was only a small glimpse, but what are your impressions of this year's team?
Well, they've got, John's got a lot of quality players and a lot of really good guys. I was really lucky with the Nike Skills Academies. I got to work with with Anthony and Michael, and so I've seen those guys play a lot as they were coming up, and just a lot of really good guys on this team. They seem to get it. They listen. They work hard. I tend to agree with John, as I often do, that while he sees them as being a ways away, and maybe doesn't know exactly what he's got right now, they're going to find out in a hurry. They're going to defend, they're going to run, and they're going to play really hard. And you add those things together with the quality of player, talent-wise, and the quality of player they have, character-wise, and Kentucky's going to be right there all year long.
You mentioned you've seen some of these guys before, but is there anything that stood out to you about their development? I mean, they've only been out for 3 weeks, but any of them stand out in terms of how far they've come already?
Well, I think Michael Gilchrist, I guess Michael Kidd Gilchrist. I think the thing that has always impressed me about him was his high-level competitiveness. He's just got a drive and a will within him that you just don't see in an 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever he is. He's too young to have that, that fight in him, but he's got it. Usually it takes somebody some time to develop that, and he's got it already. And then Anthony Davis is going to be a great player. He is one. I can't remember a guy his size with those kind of hands. Like, he can catch everything. During this Nike Skills Academy, guys were working drills and everything. I was standing under the basket, acting like a coach, telling guys what to do. And somebody winged a ball to Anthony right under the basket, and it wasn't a very good pass, and it was a bullet, and it was coming right at me. The kind of thing, it's almost like a car accident. You see it coming, but there's not enough time to get out of the way, and all of a sudden these arms came out of nowhere, clutched the ball, and put it in. And I didn't think there were very many guys that could have caught the ball and finished the play that he did. And then I think Kyle Wiltshire a really good player that. He can shoot it. He's got a really good feel for the game. I think people are going to they shouldn't be surprised because he's a top-rated recruit. But when you're the 30th ranked player in the country in this recruiting class, they mention your name last. They're going to be talking about him a lot. He's a really good player.
Everybody talks about the youth of this team. Earlier before practice started, me and you talked a little bit about this team actually has some veterans, and people don't really realize that.
Yeah, it's funny. I get the question a lot when people ask about Kentucky. How they do it? How are they going to do it with all these one and dones and everything? And I mentioned they only lost one guy last year, early, and that was Brandon Knight. That John probably has more players coming back this year than any of the years he's been here. His first year, Patrick Patterson was coming back, but everything was new that year. But this year to have Darius Miller and Terrence Jones back and Deron Lamb, have guys that have been through it before, kind of understand, or at least have a better understanding. And now, some of the younger players can see guys in a drill that have done it before. So it's not all in the first month. It's not all coaches talking, and it's not practice having to be stopped constantly. There's a little more continuity to it, and that's really what I think every coach wants to have is, while they're the main teachers, the staff, the older guys are able to teach the younger guys too. And that's where, coach, I've always thought that coach-directed teams only go so far, that you need to have player leadership. And when you have to essentially start over every year with a new team, it's really difficult. You and I talked before. If you told me when John first got to Kentucky that he'd be able to do this with teams this young, I probably would have said, "Oh, come on, you're dreaming." And I'm not just saying this. It's one of the most remarkable coaching jobs I've ever seen. I've never seen anything. Usually you have teams that this young, you're complaining about, we got young, no chance, and you pay a huge price for being young. They get caught on the road and get drubbed because they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to fight through it, and that's normal. What's going on here is not normal. It's extraordinary. And I've never seen it like that.
Kind of branching off that, everybody wants to talk about Cal's recruiting, but what have you seen? You've seen him over the years in terms of X's and O's. How underrated is he? How much credit does he not get for what he does out here on the court?
Well, I think a lot of folks make a mistake of thinking that, he's got all that talent, he just has to throw him out there on the court. John is one of the best coaches in the game, not in the college game, in the game. He's excellent with X's and O's. Conceptually, he doesn't take a backseat to anybody. schematically, technically, none of it. But he's truly great at reaching players, at getting them to compete. That's one thing that I played for Mike Krzyzewski years ago and coached under him. I think that's his greatest strength, is his ability to reach people, to make them do more than they think they can, and to get people to work together. So I can't tell you that Coach K would win an X and O contest with all these other great coaches. I don't know whether John would either. I think both of them would. They'd be at the top level. They'd be at the top of the class, but they're not going to out X and O other people. What they do is they get players to buy in and play 5-as-1 on the floor. And it sounds cliche, but to get rid of the me in the game and play as the we. And it's easy to say, and it's a concept that people say, well, that should go without. It's hard to do. It's really hard to do, especially when you've got talented guys that have always seen themselves as the star and wanting to be a Superman out on the floor. That doesn't win. What wins is doing your job completely, helping your teammate do his job. And then, as I mentioned before, the 5-as-1 thing, that's a big deal. And John does it as well, if not better.
Get you out on this. The big question around here is what style of play is this team play? And as you were talking to him out there on camera, he doesn't really know either. But from what you've seen, what do you think maybe best suits this team?
You know that you're talking to a really good coach that is totally secure in what he's doing. When you say, what kind of team, before the season, what kind of team do you have this year? And they go, I don't know. He's not going to go into the season with a preconceived notion about here's how we're going to play. John's thinking about what's the best thing for us to do with this group to win. How are we going to win? And then he decides how they're going to play based upon what they've got. I think you'll probably see him more post-ups because they've got some bigger guys looking to get the ball inside a little bit more and play inside out. I think they're still going to run because they're going to defend. So how they defend and rebound is going to determine how much they run and get out on the break and all that, force turnovers for easy scores. When they get into half-court sets, they'll still run more set plays. I think to run the dribble drive motion stuff that John became a little bit more famous for when he was at Memphis. I think people thought he was going to bring that here and do nothing but that. But I think that requires some older players that are able to make those reads. That's kind of, even though it seems simple, it's kind of complicated on reads. So they do it less than people thought, but they still do some of it. It's still an attacking style, and they're still gonna attack because they've got good players here, really good players, and he's going to let them play and put them in a position where they're making plays instead of running plays, and with that mindset. I thought it was really interesting. I'm sure you heard it too in practice today, where he said, look, we're going to make mistakes. And I think he referenced how many mistakes they had in a recent scrimmage or exhibition. We only had 7 turnovers. That's not enough. That means we're not playing the way we're supposed to play. He's not telling them to pitch the ball out of bounds, but he's saying, we're going to have some mistakes, but we want to compete at that level, play at that speed. But he's a master at that. Really, really impressive.